What is up, guys? Welcome back to a brand new Pokemon Duel video. Today we're going to be going over the stat balance changes they're making to a lot of different figures. There are plenty of them this time, and a lot of them that I think most of you are going to be pretty excited about. So let's get right into it. First off, I think it's very important to mention that we are going to be getting 3 booster tickets for free. So, to those of you that went and spent like thousands and thousands of your hard-earned materials on Deoxys, after this nerf, you're probably not going to be using them very much, so go ahead and just take those 3 booster tickets, because hopefully that makes up for it in some small way. Really though, guys, it's definitely necessary, and I'm very excited they went ahead and did it. Let's just talk about figures in order. So first off, we've got Dialga. So obviously we've got additional effect for Roar of Time. We'll go over that shortly. It also has 130 power instead of 110 now. Dragon Claw has been buffed to 70 instead of the 60 it was at. Increase the wheel piece size of Dragon Claw and decrease the miss. So it's pretty awesome all around. I mean, honestly, great buffs to Dialga. So now, in addition to having 130 power instead of the 110 it used to, Roar of Time can also return the battle opponent to their start of duel state, excluding evolution. So just say, for example, you have Dialga using Roar of Time on Gyarados, and Gyarados gets knocked out. It's going to actually return to the bench, not return to being a Magikarp on the bench. However, going up against Reshiram and Zekrom teams, you're going to notice that it's actually going to increase their weight right back up to 9 where it was, which is very concerning, to be completely honest. I mean, obviously, Dialga is going to be pretty powerful moving forward, but it's not going to be used widely, I don't think. Now, obviously, I could be wrong again. But based on what I know at the moment, not seeing the new figures that are coming out, not seeing any new plates that might be coming out in the near future, I'm pretty sure it's still going to be relatively rare to find one used well in a match. That said, that kind of threat being on board and being able to counter Reshiram and Zekrom should keep them in check no matter what. So if Reshiram and Zekrom at any point become too overpowered, we're probably going to see a lot of people using Dialga in the future just to counter that sort of thing. Moving on to Palkia, we've got an additional effect added to Spatial Rend, which I'm very excited about. It was also buffed to 120 from 100, and Dragon Claw 60 was changed to 70, so that's not really too special, but those buffs are welcome for sure. Now Spatial Rend has the additional ability to completely remove a Pokemon from the duel if it ties, so if you have anything that has 120 damage on average, chain level that thing immediately, because this is definitely pretty worrying. You'd rather lose a Pokemon and it be sent to your PC at this point than actually tie with a Palkia. So 120 is not going to be a place where you want to be. I think it definitely goes without saying here, you're probably not going to be seeing too many Spatial Rend chain levels. To be completely honest, I think that's an awful idea unless you just go straight for 130. In which case, I'd say it's a little bit better of an idea, but still not great, because when you get to at least the higher ranks where a lot of people have chain levels, Deoxys attack form is still going to be chain leveled quite often. Gyarados is going to be chain leveled quite often on a water team. I mean, it's pretty easy to find people at a high ranking that have lots of chain levels. You'd be hard pressed to find Deoxys that aren't chain leveled, at least above a certain rating. So honestly, I'm not really sure where it comes in. Probably in lower ratings where people aren't likely to have a lot of chain levels on their EXs and on their rares. But honestly, like past a certain point, I just don't think it's going to be useful. Alright guys, so now we get to what I'm actually really excited about. We have Deoxys attack form nerfs. Finally. Absolutely amazing. And I think the additional effect that they put on Time Slip is definitely necessary to sort of balance out the team. And what they did to Cosmo Energy, I mean, that's downright criminal. But I think that what they did to Deoxys attack form in particular makes it so it's a little bit more balanced, because there's a lot of risk. Okay, there's a lot more risk when you're using it than what you used to do before, which is you could defend with Deoxys attack form, you could attack with Deoxys attack form, you could set that thing on your goal, and you'd be totally fine most of the time, because you can just respin your opponent, and you could respin yourself with double chance. I mean, there's not a lot of risk in it, but with this, there is. See, before Time Slip would just remove Deoxys from the field, put it back on your bench, and you just be able to throw it back out the next turn. Now, it's 3 stars, so more likely, more often going to be rolling a Time Slip and not having it be a neutral attack, but it has the additional effect of adding weight 3 to your Deoxys on the bench. So that's extremely relevant when you consider the fact that it's not going to be able to immediately replace itself. And I just think that that's super important for the Cosmo Energy decks, for the Deoxys decks. So I'm very happy about this change. It doesn't by any means make it completely impossible to use. but it balances it in a way that makes it so it's a lot more high risk and high reward. Empoleon got a buff, which is awesome. It went from having a 40 damage move to 70 and changed its wheel piece size. We'll definitely see very shortly what that actually means. But Hydro Pump also changed from 70 to 90, and that is just awesome because putting that into an actual Manaphy deck, a water deck where you're running 1 to 2 Manaphies, obviously, most likely it's going to be 1, but 1 to 2 Manaphies, I mean, that's fantastic. You have a 90 damage and 110 damage instead of a 60 and a 90. So that's great. I love its ability. I love the Pokemon. It changed one whole miss section to dodge, which I love that as well. Honestly, guys, I love everything about this entire buff that Empoleon got. I love the figure. I think that it's a better option than Heatran most of the time because it doesn't just throw itself back to the bench if you happen to still have it on board after the turn ends. So, I'm feeling pretty good about it. It's probably going back on my water team very shortly, which you guys will see in the very near future as well. And I'm hyped about it. I got to be real with you guys. And just to add to that buff, just to add to the fact that it got buffed in physical damage on both moves, Ice Beam actually freezes the opposing Pokemon if you go ahead and get knocked out by your opponent. So let's say you actually do run into a Deoxys attack form, just for lack of a better example, and it just knocks you out. 130 versus the, what, 70, right? Yeah, 70. So 130 versus 70, that's just not going to go your way in any situation. So it's going to freeze it up, and you have a way that you can actually follow up with an attack. And if they're overextending and they freeze their Deoxys attack form, you get a free knockout. I mean, that is invaluable. Now, Rayquaza and Groudon both have the added Primal Rage ability. This is a really interesting ability, and I really do like it. It means that basically if you're using Groudon, Kyogre, or Rayquaza on the field, it gets +1 MP and does +20 damage. I really, really like this because it means that there are going to be more Pokemon that rely on each other to have some sort of buff. Now, obviously, like Reshiram and Zekrom, that's the ability to knock out opposing Pokemon, but maybe it's going to be different with this. Obviously, you're going to have more movability, more usability if you have Rayquaza, Groudon, and Kyogre on board, but they become way less usable if you actually end up having a couple of them knocked out, and then your team just goes a lot down in usability. So it's sort of a high risk but high reward scenario here, where you're going to be able to use a few Pokemon and have them just buff each other, but if one of them gets knocked out, it's going to take down the overall power of your team a pretty significant amount. Now, Kyogre got a whole wealth of buffs, and it's definitely necessary at this point that they do that because they buffed Groudon and they buffed Rayquaza, their wheels in general. So Kyogre is definitely a little bit overdue for that as well. We're going to see Water Pulse change to Break Energy and have a smaller wheel piece size. We're going to see an added bit of the wheel piece size for Tidal Wave, which is pretty great in my opinion. Tidal Wave is an awesome move, and we'll cover that in the future when we see more of Kyogre when it comes back in a future event. I'm going to guess that the next gym is going to be a Water-type gym, even though they had it before the global version, global release of the game was released. I mean, I'm thinking we might see another Water-type gym, or possibly just Kyogre as a reward in whatever gym comes next. But yeah, Hydro Pump 120 to Hydro Pump 130 and decreased its size, added a dodge, and decreased the size of miss. So I mean, overall, that's pretty awesome, and I really do like that spinner. I have it kind of in my head here. Now, obviously, it could be a little bit less significant as far as the changes are concerned than I think they'll be, because we don't see the actual numbers for the wheel piece size changes. But I do think it's going to be pretty good, and I'm pretty excited to see if I can work it into a deck. Obviously, we will be using Kyogre, Rayquaza, and Groudon given the opportunity, so if I do pull a Kyogre, we will be running them, and I'm very excited to go ahead and do that. Shiftry got a couple balance changes as well, 60 to 70 damage and 40 to 50 damage on its physicals respectively, so it's definitely not a huge buff there, but it does make it a little bit easier to use its ability and sort of boosts its usability as a whole. Reuniclus got absolutely destroyed. Now you can only use its ability where it gives additional respins if Reuniclus is on board, which is awesome in my opinion. And I love, okay, so we go down here, in addition to its highly damaging and excellent special condition inducing attacks due to the effect of Reuniclus's ability, the influence of chance could be minimized in battles by including multiple copies of it in your deck. While it was optimal figure for players still inexperienced in duels who were looking to master winning strategies. That's awesome. They recognize that people that don't know what they're doing actually use Reuniclus because it gives them a better chance at winning. I love it. I love it so much. That is a fantastic, just sort of a backhand, you know, like they're just like, we know you think you're good, but you're not, you know. There was a serious issue in that the respins were complicating each battle, leading to long drawn-out duels, and that's definitely true as well. There were a lot of timeouts in particular, and just generally drawing out duels, not even with timeouts, but making it so each action took so just long. Just grinding it out just took so long. So I'm very, very happy about this change. I definitely really think it's going to make it so, like they said, we try to make duels more enjoyable for both players. I think that's going to ring true with this change in particular. We also see the dual brains ability is going to be included on Duosion and Solosis, which is pretty interesting. So having it so you get the extra damage on the 50 damage base move there, I mean, that's definitely relevant. And I could see some Evo teams taking full advantage of that. So I'm okay with that change as well. I think it's a welcome change. I think that making it so it's an Evo Reuniclus team would actually make it so it's a little bit more risky, which would be awesome, and make it so it's a little bit more balanced as a whole, but also make it so if you can manage to evolve those Pokemon, I mean, it's going to be an absolute powerhouse. Psyduck was also changed. Scratch changed to Water Pulse, which is doubling the physical damage, increase wheel piece size of Disable, and decrease the miss. So really not a whole lot to talk about there. I mean, it's all right. I don't think it's going to be meta relevant, but okay. Moving on to Kabuto, we've got Scratch that's been buffed by 10 physical damage and decreased wheel piece size, added an Aqua Jet move, increased Protect, and decreased miss. So I think that this is just sort of setting it apart, making it sort of a more unique figure, and obviously changing it very significantly, probably for the release of Kabutops as far as I'm concerned. I've not heard anything about it being released. I don't think it's one of those figures that we just haven't seen in any boosters at all since release. I'm pretty sure it hasn't been released yet. Please correct me if I'm wrong, if it was released in Japan before the release of the app as far as the global app was concerned. But yeah, this could be really interesting. I'm excited to see Kabutops as a whole. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Nuzleaf was buffed by 10. I really don't think that that's a big deal, but you know what? I hope they prove me wrong. I'd like to see a Shift Tree deck that did really, really good, but I don't think it's going to be meta relevant at all. Now, Cosmo Energy. Cosmo Energy got a very, very subtle little change as far as the wording is concerned, but it's very significant when you consider the implications that it's going to have on the game. Just removing two little words, field or bench, they removed the or bench part of it. Now, that is ridiculous because it means that the Deoxys that you want to switch with using Cosmo Energy are going to have to be on the field, on the board, to be able to be switched. So that means no more rushing, no more dropping a Cosmo Energy and then waiting for a runner to just run out from your opponent, dropping a Deoxys speed form, having it be attacked, and then just turning into an attack form. And even if you did, even if you could still do that, I don't know if you'd want to because of just the crazy lack of momentum you're going to have and the crazy momentum you're going to give to your opponent if you end up losing that trade now with Deoxys attack form. I mean, it's just honestly a really, really awesome change that they made here. I think it's going to balance out the Deoxys Cosmo Energy teams very significantly because it means they have to play more defensively. And I see a lot of people saying that they don't like the fact that they changed Deoxys after everyone already paid money for it. Now, I could see this if they knew that Deoxys was going to be as oppressive as it really is and has been. However, I don't think that they knew when they first released Deoxys that it was going to be as ridiculous as it is. And I don't think that they realized that even if they released ways to counter Deoxys with all of these different energy plays, tropical energy, and just Metagross ability changes, I mean, they released things here that were definitely intended to take down the usage of Deoxys. And I think that they kept an eye, like probably a really close eye on the statistics of just how people are winning matches, high tier matches, high rank matches, whatever you want to call it. And I think that they probably saw that it wasn't going down as much as they wanted it to more of a reasonable, balanced level. And I think that these changes are definitely going to do that. Also, they didn't bring back Deoxys for any of the recommended boosters after its original recommended booster, so they didn't gouge people too much. Obviously, you could still buy it for 3,000 materials a pop, but I don't think that's really an argument. I definitely love these changes and wholeheartedly support them in doing them. So Flame Energy got a very significant buff here. It adds the infliction of weight 3 on every single burned Pokemon your opponent has. Now, at first glance, this is just a really, really positive change to Flame Energy that makes it a little bit more meta relevant possibly. But I will say that I do think this can be used in a combo deck. And I know we've talked about combo decks before, sort of control combo decks like Reshiram and Zekrom, because you're trying to kind of control the game and just roll as many times as you can with Reshiram and Zekrom on board, trying to knock out your opponent's Pokemon, and then just bring it home by winning with just overpowering them with the sheer amount of figures you're going to have on board more than them. However, Flame Energy is a little bit of a different case. We're going to see that there's going to be just some niche decks here that try to combo off. And what I mean by that is they'll get burns on the entire opposing team, make sure that they've used up all the plates that they can, that there is no way that they can get anything unburned. And then they're going to use Flame Energy, and then it'll sort of swap back over to their opponent's turn, and they'll lose the match because of a weight loss. This is accomplished because basically you're giving a weight to literally every other Pokemon that can be moved on your opponent's team. If they have no other options for taking their turn, then they just lose. I think that's going to be really interesting. We're definitely going to try it out in the future. Obviously, as more Pokemon come out, as more fire Pokemon are released that can burn opposing Pokemon very easily, we might see a rise of a deck that uses this as a combo. I don't know if we will at the beginning because the quality just isn't there. You want to have quality figures that can work outside of the combo. Otherwise, it's probably not going to be very reliable. I mean, you want to be able to actually win the match even if you can't get the combo off. But yeah, guys, that's going to be about it for balance changes as far as this particular patch is concerned. We'll be going over the new figures very, very shortly, but I'm super hyped to go ahead and try out some of these figures after they get buffed and after some other figures I'm used to seeing in high rank matches get nerfed. This is going to be a really fun meta, I think, guys. Let's go ahead and pop open these boosters real quick and just end out the day on that note. We're going to pop open a purple first. It's going to be uncommon. We're going to grab a Sliggoo, an ingot common, a cube common. Nothing great there. We'll just jump into the orange booster we have second if our screen would go ahead. Yeah, there we go. Orange booster, and it's gonna be a gold. Awesome. Okay, so we got a rare Whimsicott. Definitely all right with that. Would love to grab a whole bunch of them. Chain level my main Whimsicott quite a bit because I think it's going to be very useful in the future. I'm gonna grab a C-Dot as well as a ingot common and a rare metal common. So again, nothing too amazing out of that, but the Whimsicott is a welcome addition to the collection. But yeah, guys, that's going to be about it for this one. Hope you have a fantastic day. I'll see you back here for the next video very, very shortly. I'm super hyped to go ahead and bring you guys some new content in the new high-ranked meta. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I hope you're on board for it. So until the next one, peace.